Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Quick tutorial. So today marks the release of the next and newest NixOS stable release, version 24.11 Vicuna. The one before was Uakari. I'm going to show you how to upgrade to this version if you're a stable release user who also uses Flakes and Home Manager. So first thing we're going to need to do is open up a terminal and open up our Flake.nix file. So I have a folder called NathOS. Open this folder. I'm going to cd change directory into that. We list, you can see here's all my configuration files. And so first thing I'm going to do is, and most importantly, going to nano or vim, whatever you use, into Flake.nix. And really all that needs to be changed here is the inputs. So the inputs dictate from which repository your packages are pulled from. Now that Vicuna is out of the unstable into the stable release, I have both URLs for unstable and stable, but for you, just go to your stable and it would have said 24.05. You're just going to replace that with 24.11. And you're going to do this with anything else in here like that. So this was 24.05 for the Home Manager URL right here. So for Home Manager, you're going to also go from release 24.05 to 24.11. If you don't use Home Manager, then don't got to worry about that. As a review, this is 24.11 and Home Manager is also 24.11. I haven't set up Stylix, but in the event that I do, I also change that. Do that to anything else in here that requires it, but I doubt you'll have anything else. So I'm going to write that out. And then as a reminder, what you don't want to do is if we go into our configuration.nix, you do not want to edit the state version. This is specifically to dictate what your system started as. So do not change this. I made my config at 24.05. Yours might be earlier. Do not change this. There's a similar version in Home Manager. I have the home state version. Also, do not change this. Keep this at 24.05. So all that needs to change at the forefront is your Flake.nix. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to update the Flake. This is going to take our Flake.nix file and the change that we made to it to create a new flake.lock file. And then we'll be able to use that to connect our configuration.nix and our home.nix to that. So what we're going to do is sudo nix flake update. Now I am cd'd currently into the directory of which my flake is in. If you're not, you're going to want to do that. So you could do the tilde and then / for your home directory. And then for instance, NathOS if I was not in there. But I'm just going to do sudo nix flake update, which I've already updated my flake, but for you, it might take a little bit longer. And then after that, if there are no errors, which there should not, if not, try to read them over. If you need help, you could join the NixOS Discord. And from there is where things can get a little tricky because it really depends on your configurations and home manager configuration. I had to change some things. So I'm going to go over what I had to change. But what we're going to do is do a sudo NixOS rebuild switch -- flake. If you're in the proper directory, this will be fine. If you're at for instance, a neutral directory, you'll want to specify where your flake file is going to reside. What I'd rather do is just cd into that folder, sudo nixos rebuild switch flake, and then you're gonna rebuild. I've already updated, so I'm not going to, but when you do, if everything works, it all works beautiful. And then you just put your password in and it should update at least that part of your system's configuration. If not, and you get an error, try to read it over, but here's one that I had to fix. So if we go into my configuration.nix, the one I had to change was all the way down here in my OpenGL driver section. Hardware.opengl got changed to graphics. So instead of hardware.opengl.enable, it's hardware.graphics.enable. Also, DRI support was disabled or at least natively enabled. So I commented both of these out, changed OpenGL to the word graphics, and that's all I had to do for my configuration. However, lots of packages will have changed their names. This is more evident when we get to the home manager section where most of my packages are. So you assume we did our new sudo NixOS rebuild switch Flake. It went through all the changes. It's going to take a while since it's a big stable release update. And after that, you want to do your home manager and its packages as long as you have packages inside. So we're going to nano to our Home.nix. So some things I had to change after the fact. You want to try doing a rebuild of your home manager before is I had to change Steam CMD from Steam packages.steam CMD, gnome.adwaita icon theme to just adwaita icon theme, file roller to gnome file roller, or the other way around. I think it was cinnamon.nemo with extensions to just Nemo with extensions. All these things will be said as you're trying to rebuild. So it'll even let you rebuild while these are still the way they are, but I would go ahead and change them after the fact. And just so keep your terminal open and scroll all the way up to find the changes that you need to make to your packages, as some have been moved to the top. So they're not under a certain category anymore. Like for instance, Steam packages.steam CMD is just its own thing now. And that's all I had to do. So to rebuild your home manager properly, we're gonna have to do is home manager switch Flake. And then again, if you're not in the folder of which your Flake.nix is, you're going to want to locate, specify that with the parent folder. But since I'm already in there, it should be fine. And don't do sudo if you have home manager installed as a standalone. And in fact, if you have home manager installed via module, your NixOS rebuild switch would have done this already for you, but this is for standalone home manager users only. So home manager switch -- Flake is going to give you a similar process as your rebuild switch. It's going to also tell you if anything needs to change inside your file, and then you will want to give yourself a reboot. When it is time to boot back up, you're going to want to probably do a fast neo whatever fetch you have, and you should have 24.11 Vicuna installed instead of 24.05 Uakari. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or any errors I made. It's just a quick whatever video since I just was already doing it. If you ever need any help, I would recommend joining the NixOS Discord. And every release is about 6 months. This is my first stable release, so I just learned how to do it myself. And the next one should probably be sometime in June. Also, for instance, I use Hyprland. Some things changed with the Hyprland release that I had to change in my config. So just make sure you have a backup of everything. Well, NixOS does a good job with that, but you might want to make a backup of any configuration files you have via Home Manager in case that you need to make any changes that you weren't expecting because the syntax has changed. For instance, with Hyprland, it was the shadows, and I'll show that really quick. So in my NathOS, I have a config folder, hyperland.conf. If we go to shadow, this is the new shadow syntax. So you want to make sure to change it to this. Now your variables, you can change however you want, but this is the new syntax instead of drop shadow, and it's still under the decoration, at least for me. So that's all about it on my part. Anyways, have a good morning, have a good evening, have a good night. Thanks for watching.